Welcome back to the Love and Worship Show. This is Kingsley Kase, and as usually, we do a little intro, a little spice up stuff that's going on. But this week, just trying to update and push out some more shows, get some more feedback on what you guys think about the other shows. Haven't really got much comment, but looking forward to this picking up in the future. Well, I guess some things that I've noticed gets a lot more traction when I do live videos. Tends to get a lot more traction now than not doing live videos. But I wanted to say that yesterday was awesome. Mother's Day was great. Great experience Mother's Day. Just seeing mothers being appreciated, and I got to watch my artist sing a song, and just knowing where he's at relationally, far as his talents and gifts and stuff like that. I did notice that he was a lot more honest in his sharing, when given the opportunity, and I guess very, very direct, but I felt that this Sunday was also a lesson for him too, for situational awareness as well. But it shows that he can be very focused. So that was to him, it was very a plus. It was a proud moment. It was me watching that and seeing what it was. I was like, man, he's gonna make some woman's daughter a very he's gonna be some amazing father and husband, or whatever the case may be. It's just that certain things, characteristics I noticed, and it was very good, very positive, I would say. But also strengthened his connection to people as well. So I believe what God is going to do is going to be very significant. With that, welcome back to the Love and Worship podcast. And stay tuned. We'll be back with these messages, and we're going to go in and talk about this whole spiel, what I got going on, what's going to happen, what is good, what is going to really be good. And we're going to talk more about that in the season that we're in. Much love. Meet you back here in a quick second.
You got the desires, yes, you got all the ones. But what you do when they're gone?
All right. Welcome back. That Matthew McConaughey kind of sound. All right. Oh man, let me tell you something. I love me some Matthew McConaughey. He just has this approach of just, I don't know what changed in his life, or just how relaxed, or whatever that is. He just has an approach that he kind of mellows the room out. He walks into the room very honest, and he doesn't project himself upon people. He just leaves an impression that's very genuine. Somebody who could be, from my homeland, or somebody from your homeland. Just somebody who reminds you of the gentle neighbor down the street who has cares, but his cares are not thrown on your shoulders when your world is crashing down. He comes in there and he smooths things over with like a song or something like that. But talking with songs, talking about music, like we talked about Mother's Day being very tough for family members in this season, and all the ones who are missing their mothers, and what's that's like. Just trying to push for a better tomorrow, and just hoping that we're gonna make things happen. A lot of things are going on right now, and I believe, far as women goes in our culture, I feel as if I know it's hard for me to say this right now, but women in our culture, I'm talking about around the world, as people in general, not a white or black situation, because people always try to pour in and make it a white or black situation. Just women in general right now, I think a lot of women just need tremendous encouragement. And then you'll say to me, King, why would you say that? Like, the brothers need it right now. I'm going to address the brother situation too in a little moment, but a lot of women need encouragement right now. The season we're in, a lot of women are going through. This is another era of changes, not just changes in the mind, changes in the body, changes, societal changes. Whether you're insured or not insured, like whether or not you have insurance or you don't have insurance, whether you're married or you're not married, whether you're single and you want to be in a relationship, whether you've met someone so genuine, but because of your internalized fears, you're not giving yourself that opportunity to be with someone who can make your world. Not by themselves alone, but it's just that, not to say to build your world around a person, but saying that partnership is still a unique experience, and we've been blessed to be a part of it. I'm saying that we need to be very mindful in this season, because mothers not being mothers or future moms, and remaining nocturnal to that side of who, or that natural side of them, or if they would consider that not being a natural opportunity for them, and choosing that, because it's still a life choice, choosing not to be moms. I feel as if like that number is changing. There are a lot more relationships that are forming now, genuine relationships that are coming out of the woodworks. There are a lot of people who are very positive, very honest. And then there are people who mistake honesty and genuine care for, I don't know, for make it to seem something imaginative or something that's projected. And I think that the era that we're in, a lot of the women are going to go through those challenges, and this is me addressing the elephant in the room, which in the man conversation, a lot of men there's so many options for males right now. And because those so many options are there for males, even though society is built now for really, really much so, at least in the Bahamas, society is really built for women to succeed, rather than men to succeed. And some women will argue and say that, well, that's not necessarily true, but I will say, well, it is true, because if you look at, it's not because women are willing to take on jobs men won't take on. It's because society still says that men should only be qualified to take on certain roles, or should only take on certain roles, especially in our society. And so when we're seeing secretarial positions or whatever the case may be, or roles that predominantly women over time and over the centuries have filled these spaces, we realize that our minds have been changed and warped on what society ought to look like. So now all of our basis for work and jobs and how we do jobs and why we do jobs is based upon a Western philosophy more than a reality. The reality is superficial in a way, because we're still creating systems that were created for us to fail in, and formed by organizations or people or societies of people who cater to only one audience and one brand of people, which means that certain people who work in those environments will always be successful over other cultures, which is true, and that's a fact. So we haven't really done well over however long we've been independent for, 52, 53 years. We have not learned that that if we don't get this right and really, really, really protect our own, we're doing the same thing that, the whole Lynch theory did, which is enslave our own people and keep us enslaved mentally. And a lot of the women now are participating in the same things that men were. So take for Africa. Back in the day, I remember back in the day where you normally see men would smoke. Really, really back in the day. I'm talking like long time back in the day, not like talking like 1980s or 1970s, something like that. I was talking like way back in the day before you and I even existed. The ones who are younger than 40 or whatever the case may be, we didn't exist, right? So there was a period of time where it was not really a known thing for women to smoke. I'm just using this as an example. Now, in so many societies, like you go on a highway, driving down the highways, you see women smoking. It's almost like a chain of women smokers, And now the way the market has pushed this whole thing now is, you could, anything you can do, I can do better, right? And that came out to be a marketing scam to get women to buy things, to get women to participate in things, get women to create things, as men do, right? To show this equality or equal playing field. At least that's what we thought it was. But it was a way of, just a way of, hey, we've already done what we needed to do with this population of men, this culture of men. Now we need to do what we need to do with this culture of women and that culture of women. So what comes up? What do you think comes up? Cosmetology, all the fake nails, the crazy jewelry, the hair extensions, the eyebrows and all this stuff. And then they was like, whoa, well, we've been marketing alcohol to men all this time. And, we destabilizing whatever economies we need to stabilize with alcohol and drugs and all this other stuff. What if we turn around and do the same thing for women? Wow, now, because now you have all these ups and fathers and all this stuff and everything. So now we start marketing the same strategies that we did for certain cultures for men, which is a tactic in a lot of societies. And the societies that usually do things occasionally is one thing. But look at it now. If you go into bars, who are the people you mostly see in the bars? You would say all of the men are in there. But if women outnumber men, there's a likelihood that there are going to be a lot more women in these bars than males. So now women are being targeted in such a massive way because, hey, if she's there, then the males are going to be there as well. If she spends all the money, then, that's a destabilized, whatever the case may be. So now it gives us more grounds to walk into that neighborhood. And anyways, that's a little more deeper. But I'm saying, do have to pray for our women because that is the targets that's on their backs. That's what they're being broadcast every single day. And a lot of women who think they're living the life and this is what life is and this is what living is and stuff like that. It isn't. It truly isn't. Like, honestly, it isn't. Like, literally, you're destroying your body. And after you get to a certain age, all this stuff that you've done to your body is going to tell it on itself. And then you're going to say, oh, well, but other people were doing the same thing, blah, blah, and all this other stuff. And I'll look at you and I'm like, you don't really learn from history, have you? Like, have you learned anything from history? One of the things that we're taught in history is that whenever we try to create or we try to become autonomous in our culture, we're self-serving, we're able to take care of people, we create products that produce and take care of them. What's the number one thing how we're targeted? You got all these other entities want to move in and say, hey, well, we want to build this thing here, and then we'll employ all your people, but we'll probably put in 20% over the generations into your country, and 80% we're taking home, 60% we're profiting from. And eventually, when this thing comes crashing down and burn, it's going to continuously be an eyesore for another 40 to 100 years in your country. Now, it's taking up space, it's becoming an eyesore, and it's probably going to end up becoming a hazardous place eventually. And look at the history of where that's happening around the world, where that's happening. There's so many once independent cultures. You have so many systems that have come crashing down and burned because what happened is those places that were before those systems came into play, what would have happened? Those cultures would have learned how to market their own goods. People would have become much more self-aware about entrepreneurship, what it means to build their own branding, what it means to put stuff out there. Also, what it means to put out things that are also healthier for us, things that help us grow, things that help us be better and more improve. But here's the biggest thing. We're still lying to ourselves about it because we're still using a lot of the systems. Okay, like for instance, when you come home, like how much time do you spend on the telly? Do you spend zero time on the telly? Do you spend zero time on social media? Do you spend zero time on all the other subscriptions and stuff that you got on the phone? Where do you spend your most when you come on here? On my devices, when I look at my device every week and I look at it, the number one thing where I spend the majority of my time is in GarageBand. I'm either working on something, I'm producing something, I'm working on my art, then it's my notepad. I'm writing, I'm doing something like that. Then it's other things like maybe internet, I had to search up something, or I'm going to my website, I'm trying to update something, and then it's my emails. I check emails from time to time to check, make sure I got the right proper communication. And then maybe WhatsApp gets up in there sometimes, but it's not because of me watching statuses, because I don't. That's not something I typically do. But it won't never be Facebook being number one. It will never be Instagram being number one. It would never be X being number one. It would never be things like that. It will not be YouTube being number one. Those things just won't fit in that status quo. Like when I look at the time and hours, I'm so much more focused on building my brand and working around it and not being so concerned with everything else that is out there, and concerned about comments from people who don't care nothing about me. I'll draw an explanation. Somebody comes and comments on my video and says, it's, wow, such an awesome video, blah, blah, but you're never going to get the amount of views until you do this and start making this adjustment or whatever and stuff like that. And I might think and take that comment as, hey, this is gold, and let me learn from this person and glean from this person, or whatever the case may be. But then the algorithm tells me all you have to do is keep on posting, being consistent, and over time your audience will find you. You will eventually find your audience. Continue to grow, continue to build on your content, to learn from your mistakes, and keep on going from there. The audience that likes what you do, that appreciates and values what you do, they're going to come on there and follow you. But here's the thing. 90% of the time, if you are out there looking for validation, and this is what's happening to a lot of our women. I'm, our women are being targeted with validation, are saying that if you don't do this and you don't line up this way, then if you don't blah, 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 then you're not as valuable. You're not as marketable. Or that is not the kind of man you should marry. Or the kind of guy, if this guy pursues you and he likes you and is interested, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to do this, he's going to... What if that guy doesn't do any of those things, but he's the perfect person for you? He doesn't do none of those things that everything out there tells you of what it is. So based upon that feeling and that fear that he won't fit that equation of what you want, and how you perceive it to be. And you'd be like, well, no, but that's what I want. But is that what you need to survive? Is that going to be the thing that keeps you together when you're in it for like 15 years? Or is that just going to be the thing that gets you together? And then you meet this person finally, and then this person is like the devil, in your life. Or are you looking for something that's real? Like when someone, you do a little more research about them or whatever, or ask them the right question. But if you're not going to ask questions, what's going to happen is, when are you going to meet this person? How are you going to get to know this person? So do you ever truly meet people? And that was one of my things. My thing is I don't think we truly meet people anymore. We meet their Facebook handles or Instagram handles. We meet all these other handles that they have, their views. We meet their superficial reality, all these things. But we never really truly meet people. And so now, because of that, it is so much easier for people to hate one another, easier for people to reject people easily and think it's not harsh. It's easier for us to look away and turn away because, hey, this person isn't popular. They're on no one's radar. No one's going to make a movie about them. No one's going to write a book about them. No one's going to use this person's songs. And then one day, John Legend comes up and says, whoa, Kingsley's been here in the Bahamas all this time, and you guys, whatever. Like I told a story one time about being in Philly and I'll tell you right now, I had no idea who was in that room. I just knew that your boy was up in the church and say whatever I was there, and it was like one of the craziest opportunities, and I needed to be there, but there was like practicing, and they say, oh no, they in there, they practicing or whatever. I don't know who he was practicing with. I don't know who was in there. I just knew the kind of people that he's ran with, people he's, who he's working with, and people he was around at the time, or whatever the case may be. And it just impressed me that, it was very imaginative, and I wrote that in the book, just to kind of sell it, but not to be like, hey, let me just lie about this person and embellish whatever. And I think about that many years later. I was like, man, a lot of people just probably really believe every single line about that. Like, I knew every person I would have been in a room, but I'm like, well, I'm writing this, but they should see the imaginative line in there. I don't know who was in that room. It could have been R. Kelly or whatever, or John Legend. It could have been Music Soul Child. I don't know who would have been in that room. It could have been the Roots in there. It could have been Questlove in there with him. I don't know. I had no idea. Like, just straight up no idea, who was in there. I just knew that I was nervous. I was in Philly, and it just not seemed like it was the best part of Philly to be in. Parked outside inside a car with Virginia plates on it, and I was terrified. And I just remember it wasn't my fear of me leaving, it was the fact that I was out there for at least 30 minutes or more waiting, and no one was coming out, and I was calling, no one's answering their phones, and called his brother, and he said, man, they're going to come out, just stay, I'll call you back. And I didn't hear nothing for a while, and then it was like maybe an hour or two later, and his brother called me back, and he's like, hey, man, you left? Like, why would you leave? Like, you left, and he better hang up. And that terrified me. I was just like, I guess they're done now with me. And so that crushed me because I couldn't understand that, the culture, why people do and how they do whatever they do. And so it just gave them an impression as if I was not serious or not dedicated or didn't want it or was not desperate. And so I realized that sometimes, that's why I tell people, like, sometimes you only get like a chance, one shot with people. They don't give you like 2-3 chances. You get one shot, and then that's it. And then everything you say, they might take it the wrong way. Like, I think AB always took it as if like it was a slander against his name or his family or whoever he was. And I think, his brother probably doesn't even remember much of that now. But I think it was like, I think it was kind of funny. But I said all that to say is that sometimes we're really truly only given like one chance in life with people, and an opportunity like that only comes up once in your lifetime for people. But that's okay. Like, because you have God in your life, He's going to present whatever opportunities you're meant to get. And however long that takes, and however long you have to repeat that and get it right so that you can walk into that purpose in your life, He's going to still give you that grace in your life until you die. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I've seen it. I've seen people, if NBA players could talk about how many times they went out there and took a shot and missed it and missed it and missed it and missed it, but it was like 1,000 times, 10,000 times, and still until they started hitting it for another 20,000 times. If NBA players have records of like 20 to 33,000 points ever made in a game, that should tell you that they had to made way more mistakes to get to the point where they made 33,000 points or more in a game or in a season. I'm talking about like not in a game as in one game. I'm talking about like far as over all the seasons they've ever played. So let's just get that right. So they would have scored this thing, and it just turned out great and miraculous. What we learned from that is just that, hey, look, life is precious. We have maybe a minimal time to live, a minimal opportunity, and we can either, protect it, serve it well, or waste it. And a lot of people, I believe, waste and squander the opportunities they have. And for people who didn't understand those opportunities in the beginning or didn't see them as opportunities in the beginning, sometimes those are just lessons. Those are just lessons just to help us to walk into a higher purpose for our lives. And so most of the times it's God protecting us from those situations, because those situations could have been costing us a lot of money. Or we see the news about various artists right now losing their minds, or all sorts of attacks and slanders and stuff like that. And what people fail to understand is that every celebrity that thought when they only needed the radio stations, and they didn't need social media. Did you notice that just about every celebrity or every famous person is on social media right now? Every single one of them. Like every single one of them have like some sort of account or something like that, or they've patented their names or their faces or whatever material that's out there for them. And so, you will never see their faces out there, per se. The craziest thing about that too is like so many people. And I mean, I guess I can say this. I said so many people are just in a place of where they just want to live and enjoy what that youthful lust is in their lives. And I think about like the God relationship and stuff like that. I always be like, God, well, just keep us, because especially for the brothers, like a lot of us are the ones who really want to now start building a family and taking that very seriously about how we do that and our steps forward. We do want a wife and we do want to have children and stuff like that. It's just that every time you walk into that room, you're walking in with people who either have a perspective, baggage, or they just don't want that right now. So you trying to walk into that room to convince somebody who doesn't want what you're looking for is a waste of your time, because you don't waste their time and don't waste yours. They don't want that right now. That's not the one. That's not the one. A lot of people always be like, "Oh, God sent you to me," and I'm like, "Well, I hear a lot of horror stories about people who said that God sent X, Y, Z." I mean, there was a horror story about 4 years ago, a little more, of some pastor scheme with their brothers who married a woman and turned around. I don't know. She cheated on him while they were separated, and she was getting a divorce from him or whatever. But apparently, he used to beat her and was very abusive to her. Whatever the situation was, they got a divorce, and then rumors started swirling that she was pregnant with the worship leader or whatever. And I'm trying to think, like, how is it that your relationships are so close, and how is it that she's so flamboyant and open that she could have that kind of relationship with the praise and worship leader? That terrified me, because I was just like, bro, that's just crazy. Like, that people who, they don't fear God in that way. Like, they don't believe that, there's no consequence for their actions. Sad truth. He turned around years later and killed her. He put 6 shots in her while she laid on the floor. He put 6 shots in her, killed her in front of her workplace. Authorities locked him up, and I don't know how long he's going to be in jail for. But it was just like a crime of passion. And you hear about these things all the time, crimes of passion, domestic violence and all these other stuff that goes on. And people don't think nothing of it. But I was just like, what? My mind was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. I might have an argument with someone, but for it to ever to get to the point where I think fatality or is going this direction, to me, it says that I don't value my life. And if I don't have a value or a high value for my life, that means I don't have a high value for yours. So if you walk into a situation and you realize that you're in space, the same space with people who do not have a high value for their life at all, no value for life at all, that means you need to be very aware and very careful always. But pray for your sisters, brothers, and sisters, pray for your brothers that are out there. Pray for those men out there that they will wake up and realize that where we are right now in a changing of the guards, and the old oligarchs are actually dying out. Even though they have all these other things and contingencies in place and systems in place, and now we're realizing that it's just a poppy show, that people are literally, COVID was, the whole plan was to really eliminate a certain group of people, and now you have all these people dying from pneumonia apparently, and dying from all these mucus diseases and stuff that's happening to their body, just maybe less than 3 years later since the pandemic. So what do you think is happening? Ask yourself this: if you're starting to eat like a lot more foods, and you're noticing that the way that the foods taste, they're either super more spicy, super much more saltier, it's like this major change, like you're noticing certain things. People would say, oh, your bodies are changing. No. A lot of things have changed. Like literally, I was eating some potato chips the other day, natural potato chips. And man, I went to bite one of these potato chips. That thing was so salty. When I say salty, it was so much salt on that thing. I felt like it was going to be the end. It was so salty. I was like, man, who did this to these things? And I was like, man, this is the worst natural potato chip experience I've ever had in my entire life. It was so salty, and I was done. And I was like, well, if all these changes are happening in the world, which means that now so many people are working various jobs that don't really have passions for these jobs. They're just there mainstay, whatever the case may be. And those persons without passions are now serving in higher roles and higher positions because they're more focused on the dollar value than the actual goods themselves. So what happens now, you have all these major turnarounds and stuff like that, and some systems end up crashing. They end up crashing and burning every 10 to 15 years or so. And the people who are at the top, they don't really care because they've already had 15 years for surplus or until those last 5 or last 4 years where they know they were going to end up losing eventually because of all these ports. But the moment the lawsuits start happening or something like that start happening, then all of a sudden, they're closing their doors or they're selling. Next thing you know, they don't say it, but they sit on another board that owns the same company that walked in an establishment using the same facility. You don't know they're on that board. At least you don't know yet. Or you don't know they're shareholders in that same company. It's just so much. It's so much stuff. And the deeper you look at it, you realize that these persons who are puppets are leading societies as faces, but the people controlling the narratives the control is happening behind walls. And whenever they want those dominoes, those leaders to fall, they will start pushing out content that can help them fall. And that's why just about everybody's cell phone these days, has some sort of malware or some sort of device that's connected to malware going back to your computers, your laptops, or whatever. And the moment you go on, you're like, whoa, what's going on here? You realize that people have established some sort of backdoor to get into these devices now. And unfortunately, that's what's happening with just about everything you purchase now. USBs, if you purchase a USB from an entity you never heard of, you stay online long enough now, next thing you know, when you program or that USB is plugged into your system, it's a backdoor for somebody. Or your backdoor information that you sent to an organization to look at some stuff on your computer device to connect to see how best they can fix or sort out. Now they have access, like legitimate access. And you realize that it creates a big problem. And I think one of the biggest problems that it creates is that it just caused more harm in the industry. Like over time, it just caused major harm in the industry for all the technologies that are out there. AI for the bot generation, like the China stuff that's going on right now, like the stuff that's going on right now. The fact that you have a whole hospital in China that's run by robots. It's insane. Humanoids. I mean, people think humanoids was never going to be a thing. Now they are. From I watched Tron, and I saw how advanced film would have grown, and the way they theorized an AI intelligence that just decided that they wanted what a human has, and waited for a way to get out and get into the real system, into the real world, or find a way to manipulate understand human intelligence much more fully, or become a better assimilation of the human intelligence that it really thinks itself to be the human intelligence. But programming, all it takes is for the wrong person to install a program that hinders systems or causes systems to backtrack and fail. So this is where we are in our society. We're living in a time where all these things are possible, and at the same time, people are not slowing down. The world wanted us to slow down for making babies. The world wanted us, not the world, the higher powers wanted us to slow down from making babies. They wanted to eliminate a chance of them losing power, because now they're so much more wealthier, but now they're much more terrified because certain powers and people are becoming much more aware. And because the more technology advances, it's not just the more degrees you have, because it doesn't have nothing to do with degrees. You could have degrees. There's nothing wrong with having degrees. And I'm not going to shame anyone who has their degrees, because I'm proud of people who go to school and spend, $500,000 for an education to work a job where they're barely making $100,000 a year, hopefully to pay off their education. But before they're able to even pay off their education, they get married, then they get a mortgage, then they have either leases of vehicles or whatever the case may be, trying to do it like the rich does. And then they're going from job to job. Then they try to figure out. And then maybe after right before their child graduates high school, they finally got to pay off their student debt. And that only happened is because their parents either passed away or something like that, and the parents leave them some sort of inheritance. What if that's not every other child? What if you're not that lucky, or not, or it's not? Well, luck doesn't have anything to do with it. What if you're not that? What if grace doesn't allot that for you? What if your road is just a hard road? So now you've taken on all these things, all these debts, all this stuff, and there's no chance of repaying any of that stuff, So now you're hoping that your Ivy League school student is going to graduate where he becomes this filmmaker, or end up becoming a super professor or something, or some genius who creates something. So everybody's looking for this next person, this next, who's going to do this, who's going to do this, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. And I always cracked a joke that it's like entities spend hundreds of thousands a month for people to promote their stuff, like people who go online and stream online streaming. Now online streaming is a thing. People play video games all day and they stream online. They go and everybody's on there online because they're so popular, and everybody's now using this new way of streaming because everybody's on that, whatever. And or that whole, they find out that there's a group, like at least 10 million, a market of 10 million that's in that. And so they don't need to care about 2 billion people in the world. They have a market of 10 million. And now because these people made it much more famous, and now they became super popular, hey, we could give this guy some equity here because he helped us to get where we are. Because now we're now at 100 million. Now he makes whatever he makes from that, or whatever be for $30 million or whatever. And then he turns around and say, hey, man, I got to think smart. Maybe the money might not always be in this thing. Maybe I got to think of a way where I could build like something. Or let me just think of a way, hey, let me just be smart. Don't worry too much about it, because if I go and build something, they might destroy me like how they're destroying all these other big people right now who decided that they wanted to do their own thing and didn't want to pool and didn't want to be, they wanted to be their own brand, all this other stuff. So what that means, there's a society that doesn't want women to be, who are in certain cultures, to be autonomous, and to be a part of families, long-lasting families, a line of that. And then there's this society that's been trying to crush and destroy certain cultures of men because they don't want that one culture of men to all align. One of the greatest battles that can never be won against is with one culture of men. Because if that culture of men ever decided to come together, the world would be ruled in under 100 days. If that one culture of men decided that they were all going to come together and not just police the world, but to put things back into check on rulership. You don't believe me? Then ask yourself, why did the world of people and oligarchs why were they so threatened by that group of people? Over time and time again. But what history doesn't teach you is that in the beginning, that one cultured group of people was not so cultured, but they were the rulers of the world. And so I think it's just that time, people either become more intelligent over time, or maybe we become much more lazy. But anyways, moving on from that, because I talked too much about that, I just wanted to say I'm proud of all the mothers and young ladies out there. I'm so proud of my sword dancers. They did an amazing job. They danced a song that artist that I really admire a lot. Her work she has amazing work, and she's all around an amazing person. I have nothing bad to say about her. I just thought it was incredible to see them, knowing what they're going through and up against, to see them step forward and try and give it their all. And it really made my Sunday to see that. So I guess they're famous now. But we'll see what God has in store for them. But I think another thing too for me right now is probably just preparing for what's either going to be released this month and what we got to work on, and some other projects I got to get done this week. I said I was going to be done this week, so I got to be done this week. So hopefully once I'm done this week, should be able to go from there. But I think this year things are going to be really dope, really polished. It's going to look incredible. And we just all have to be grateful for the opportunities we were given. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity I'm given them. I think out of everything that I've seen so far, far as targets on our backs and all sorts of weird stuff, I think the number one thing is just being in a position of just thanking and honoring God and praising Him. This week was a very humbling week, and that's why I really came on to talk about was the praise report. So this week I had a praise report, and I feel as if not that I'm just getting answers from God, but feels like this year is the year. So not only that the album is going to be released, but I think it's going to be a really a sure difference maker, and the church is going to benefit greatly from it. The people who invested in my journey are going to benefit greatly from it. For those who don't live to see the benefits from it, their children will, their grandchildren will, and their families will, and I'll be sure to keep my word with that until the day I die. And I say that because never forget the people who were there in the beginning and the people who sowed a seed into your life to help you to get your start and come into stardom. Never forget those people, because those are the people you want to partner with. Those are the people you want to build with. Those are the people, if even if they fall off, those are people you want to pray for, pray to protect. Those are people you want to help. Those are people whose children or grandchildren you want to bail out of situations because of what their parents did for you or their grandparents did for you. I say that because it's people always take those things for granted, but I say this to never take it for granted, because you never know when God is going to grant you that opportunity where you can be a blessing. And it's up for you to remember the blessings that others have been to you. So never forget it, never forsake it. And people will always be like, oh, well, that's nothing, ain't nothing, and ain't this and ain't that. But my encouragement is like, never lose heart. Allow God to do it. If you don't allow God to do it, what's going to happen is you're going to try to do everything yourself. And in the process of doing everything yourself, you're either going to learn the hard way. And a lot of people use the Job story, and like my pastor, she's always encouraged me to, like, sometimes when we get to a deeper study in the Bible, we learn a lot more things deeply to know that Job didn't just miraculously come into all this wealth, or just double. A lot of teachers talk about his story for a little bit, but when I did the complete study on Job and wrote on it, one of the things you notice is that Job he had to journey in darkness and through darkness and to stay in the light. And because the darkness and the pain was not as attractive to him more than the light and being in God's presence. He knew instantly that, something was off with him and God, because he didn't feel God's presence. He knew that there was something away and God was not answering him. And when you get to a point where I was at one point wondering if God is going to answer me and hear my cry and hear me reach out and with things that I want to do. My thing is that it's not about what I've done for anybody. It's the relationships. And I am proud to say that God showed up in a major way this weekend. And to start off this week the way it's starting off, I am proud to say that we have a lot to be thankful to God for. We have a lot. We really need to be thankful for him for plenty things we don't consider as valuable, but we need to start considering those things as valuable. But I'm grateful to God for his gift, and I'm hoping that everything will turn and come back around. I just pray that God's will be done, in a major way. And I just know that God is good. He's a good God. He's a great God. So much stuff has changed. Things that I like to do and implement. But sometimes you try to do something on your own strength and it doesn't work out. It just means that you need to take a step back. And so I want to encourage all of my artist friends out there, all of the singer-songwriters, all the dancers, all the producers, all the music video creators, all the podcasters, everybody that's out there, people out there just doing their thing, as models, as spokespersons, as book authors, as television hosts, media personalities, construction workers, hotel workers, whatever you do. My heart goes out to all of you, saying that stay in it, try to be original and try to create something that will continuously be autonomous. And that means that no entity outside of the culture that you're creating this for can come in and shut it down or claim rights to it, or come in and secretly steal it from you. And protect yourself. Patent your ideas, patent your plans, patent things, whenever you get to that place. Put it before God, pray about it. I'm always terrified of the notion that when you become rich and famous and then you decide to go and get a relationship after you've become rich and famous, it's not really good. Like, I feel like, because those relationships are built on the person you've become more than who you were before you became those things. And so that person that you're now building a relationship with has no idea who you are, who you were. They don't even know you. And to know you, to love you. And what they know of you is fame, is what's out there, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of people be like, oh, I don't care nothing but your fame. I don't care nothing about all this other stuff. But that's just the truth. And some people think you're chasing their pockets. At least that's the thing for women nowadays. I don't know. And this is not all women. It's just some. And that percentage is so few. It's maybe like, there are, every time when you look at the ratio, it's like racism in the world. In every culture, it's anywhere from, 10 to 30%, of a population that is just racist. And then you have like another, like a 90 to about 70% that are not, and so it's just a lot of things where we've become so cultured that we see a particular viewpoint, not realizing that viewpoint that we're being faced with daily is a controlled viewpoint, is something that we're being brainwashed into believing that there's a 70% chance that all these people hate XYZ. Maybe in one or two cultures or a few cultures that might be true for those particular cultures, but then that would be known. Like, that would be known throughout their generation, their history, and their laws would also show that as well in their systems. But the generations where, like America, like America's generation, definitely, those settlers, they definitely showed that they had no plans for Native Indians and Native Africans to the Americas and stuff like that, and persons who were there before those settlers came. They made sure that none of that generation could ever be the larger or most dominant power. So they made sure to enslave them or just kill them out. And they did everything that they would have learned from, not necessarily scripturally, but everything that they would have learned in the name of Christianity, so and our many societies are still learning from it. And now we're realizing that all these people we put in power are just men. And if you look at the systems that they have, they let anything goes. And because anything goes, they're not, But in closing this podcast out, I just wanted to say that if God sends you something big, take care of what he sends you. Fight to maintain what he's given you. Expand upon it. Like don't just bury it. Like, you use it. Do something with it. Like, try to turn it into, if it's $1,000, turn that into $1 billion, or figure out a way to multiply that, invest it, and to make it into something great. Sometimes you just need one shot. It's what you do with that one shot. And sometimes it's a major test. Like, are you going to blow this, or are you not going to do nothing with this? You blowing it means you did something. You do nothing with it means you did nothing. You just buried it. You tried when you blew it. You didn't intend for it to be gone, but you ended up blowing it because you were trying to do something big with it, which was means maybe is a lesson you haven't learned in blowing your chances or whatever the case may be. But if you've invested it, some investments don't come back right away. Like, if I wanted to flip $200 right now, and I said, well, I could buy 100 t-shirts, design them, put a design on those, whatever the case may be, that's $200. Now I have 25 t-shirts, maybe 25 to about 40 design t-shirts. And I sell all 40 of those t-shirts for $35. Yeah, $35. So now I am not just waiting around for somebody to come and, whatever. I'm literally there, doing what I was told to do, which was to take the little that I have and turn it into something. And a lot of people, they get very scared and frightened, and they do nothing with it, and they say, oh, well, I didn't have to do that, or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you didn't have to do it that way, but now you just flipped $200. You could have done something a different way, but you just flipped it because now all the t-shirts are gone. But now you have a profit, plus you have what you started with. So now do you go and get some more? And then you keep on turning a profit until you could say, okay, now I can take this profit, put it into this other thing that people might want. And because, that one brand might be sold out, so people want something else now. So now you got to go and do something else that people will want. One of my friends who started like this lazy, home body outfit brand, I'm so proud of her because she did something that people talked about for years and years and years. And people always have like these cozy wears and stuff like that. But think about it. If you're in a marketplace where retailers are selling the same brands and clothing to an audience of maybe 40, I would say maybe 40 to 50,000 people. 40 to 50,000 people at least. There's a marketplace that those are the buyers and those are the shoppers, people who usually would buy things or whatever the case may be. So if you're and then you're still in the market of a population of people that are 300,000 as far as the Bahamas goes. But maybe 10 to 20% of those people might purchase your brand. If it's marketed well and it's out there and people start wearing it and start bragging about it or whatever, and it becomes popular and everyone's like wants it and stuff like that. What happens when everybody starts buying your brand? So it goes from you appealing to, 10% to 20% to now nearly 70% of the population. That's a lot. But that would never happen if you didn't start. And so my thing is, if you have a goal, you have something that you would like to do, something that you dream about doing, something that you want to invest in, my encouragement to you is to take stock, consider it, look at what all your weaknesses are, try to stay away from those weaknesses if you can. But if those are the things that sharpens your senses every now and then, it gets you back on track and make you much more hungry, then maybe keep them, but like make sure that you're protected from yourself in that way where you'll never fall far. You'll never fall. Like technically you're not falling. You're basically just testing your resolve. You're testing where you are, and you're not failing, but you're realizing how much more you need God, much more you need direction, much more you need your team, and you're also seeing whether or not your securities are well protected in your life. And it educates you. It keeps you to move forward, and then you grow. You expand from there on. But you have to know what the market is. You need to know what the market is. If you don't know what the market is, what's going to happen is that you're going to have these seasonal surpluses where you come into a season and you just winning. But then the market shifts and it's not about that anymore. Now your brand is like obsolete because some AI just decided that, hey, we can build these and we can ship these to you all for cheaper. And so this is where you have to be ahead of the game. So, but I'm just giving you a shout out to say that we have to be thankful for grace in our lives, and I'm very thankful for the people in my life. I love my parents. I love the church family. I love my family. I love the people who are in my life that I know I haven't visited some of you. I know some of you like for me to tour and get on the road and do some stuff. But I pray that once the album is released, whatever happens, we just see what God wants. And whatever partnerships He want me to partner with, I'm sure He will open those doors. And whatever He's protecting me from right now, I'm grateful that He's done such an amazing job protecting me from it. But I'm happy. I'm happy to still be His and still be chosen and still be loved. And I'm happy that whether it takes me just a couple more months or maybe 2 more weeks for me to still see the fullness of what God had waiting for me all this time, I pray that it's God who does it. And maybe He'll be the one to continue to do it in a major way. Until then, thank you so much for listening to this Love and Worship podcast. I pray that you have been encouraged. I know I talked about some stuff in bits and pieces, but I didn't want to get too caught up in some of the conversations in depth on this episode, because this episode is just all for just recognizing moms. Once again, if you haven't gotten a chance to celebrate your mom, do celebrate her. If you haven't had a chance to celebrate your sister or your friends, or send them a lovely shout out or a message, try to do that. There are amazing people out there in the world. There are a lot of people that we love in the world. There are people who love us deeply, and if they had a chance and they would look back at their lives and choose not to marry who they married and wanted to marry us, they would do that if they could. But I would beg to say that we all have an opportunity to do and make choices. It's best that we take it very hard to make wise choices and decisions, and just watch God move, watch God do something amazing in our lives. And we just have to just keep on loving on the gospel of Jesus Christ. God is going to do wonders. He's going to do great things. We just have to be very careful how we do it. So my hope is that God will continue to do great things and great works in all of our lives. And I pray that your life will become easier. And to that young lady out there who probably is madly in love with some guy who she knows loves God and is incredible, but she's afraid or whatever, seek God and ask God for direction. Don't just ask Him to seek God and God, for God's direction, but you seek God in God's direction. And maybe it's God who wants you to come back into alignment with him first. Then instead of focusing on some relationship as the in and the all, So, and this goes to my brothers out there as well. Until then, be encouraged. Thank you for checking out the Love and Worship podcast with your host, Kingsley Kase, and I'll see you back on the next round. Peace.